On today's episode, enjoy a sit-down with Jared Burkholder and myself as we discuss his reflections on his sabbatical, get a family update, and hear about his doctoral project. I'm your host, Aaron Miller, pastor of equipping at Grace Baptist Church in Santa Clarita, California. Welcome to Magnify. So you will actually be on 3 consecutive podcasts.
We're going to lose a lot of listeners.
Yes. Oh my gosh, what are we doing?
This guy. How do we get that guy with a nice, smooth voice back? I think his name is Aaron with an E.
You know, every time I go to Starbucks.
Jerry.
And what's your name?
Jerry. Sayla thinks it's so funny she started calling me Jerry. She's my daughter.
At least it's male.
Yeah.
E-R-I-N.
That's fair. The kids in Andy's class have the craziest names. There's like a Triton.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I can't even remember. Some of them are like, that's not a name. You can't name someone not a name.
Why can't you?
Like, oh, this is my son, Nutmeg.
Well, yeah, that's a little...
This is my daughter, Bamboo.
But Triton. Come on, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I told you the first time I got paid...
Like it's Trite for short, though. Like that.
First time I got paid by a church.
Yeah.
The paycheck was E-R-I-N Miller. And this was in the days before direct deposit. So...
Oh, that didn't work, yeah.
Well, I had to go to the bank. And it was a small town, Wake Forest. So, you know, people knew one another. I knew the banker. She went to our church.
And did she do it?
She goes, Aaron, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what do
This
you
is a
mean? I'm
different
a
person.
poor college student. I need
this
the
right
money.
now.
This actually is, though, by definition of the spelling, a different person. We cannot process your check. So I went back to the church. I said, you're a church. Aaron.
Also, I work here.
A-A-R-O-N. The brother of Moses.
Yeah.
It's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible. Do you remember going to the bank?
Do I remember going to the bank?
I don't go to the bank. Do you go to the bank anymore? I don't go to the
Sure.
bank.
No, I make deposits yeah. I could do the mobile deposit on the phone, but sometimes like, you know.
Oh, you're pulling in those big checks.
Well,
You're pulling in those fat boys.
No. But if we have cash we have to deposit or anything like that, you know. Things like that.
You dealing a lot of cash, Aaron? Briefcases full?
I don't like where this conversation's going.
You're just up in Alaska, a boat comes in from Russia, a suitcase is exchanged.
Thanks for sitting down with me, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, we did this with Dave when he came back from his sabbatical. We wanted to sit down with you and kind of talk about that and explore all that God taught you. I know that it didn't seem restful given all that went on, which we'll get into here in a minute. But
yeah,
God certainly was providentially gave you the time.
Yeah, and was super thankful for that. Just recognize a lot of guys that I know in ministry don't have the opportunity to do that. Certainly the guys I'm in school with don't have the opportunity to do that. And so...
Were you the only one in your cohort, your class, who went on sabbatical?
Another guy had gone on, but he was eligible like early in the program. And so it was helpful for him personally. It wasn't helpful so much for the study part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of churches don't do that. It's just a gift that Grace not only has it, but encourages us to take it and allows for it, accommodates it, facilitates it.
It's also something that people generally don't understand. I mean, have you been asked that? Like, why are you on sabbatical? What are you doing?
I got a couple of questions that were hinting around that. And I just said, it's because I'm so weak. That's why.
Okay, what did you end up doing? You were gone for 3 months. Where did you go? What did you focus on?
So, like, the only month when everybody was all off together was July. I think it was July 1st. We all jumped on a plane and flew out to Raleigh, North Carolina. Our families on the East Coast, we used to live in North Carolina, not in Raleigh, but in North Carolina. And so it just felt like North Carolina was equidistant between our families. It kind of provided a good home base. Mike and Abby Dixon are out there, and they had a guest suite.
That's right.
That could kind of be a home central base for us. So,
and they're about, 45 minutes outside of Raleigh?
Yeah. They're in a town called Rocky Mount, which is a quaint, delightful little town. So yeah, we rolled in and we stayed with them for about 2 weeks and just had a great time with the kids. Yeah, hung out, we swam, we went on walks. Got to see their church, which was really neat. Our kids went to VBS at their church, which was awesome. Got to see some old friends from Winston. I got to have a meal with my professor, which was great. My supervising professor out at Southeastern.
Dr. Liederbach.
Dr. Mark Liederbach, which was great. I got to go to the library a few times, which is funny. I was sitting there writing, and aside from the modules that when we were out there, I'd never really been to the library. So to be there, like for 2 days, it felt like I was a real boy. Like I was a real student, and I was really doing it, surrounded by other students.
Folks, if you don't know this, Jared is finishing up his doctorate at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. It's where Ingrid and I met. And so everywhere he's talking, like my mind is traveling with you. You mentioned the library, I think at the first floor. I know the third floor. I know the second floor.
I went to the third floor for the first time because I needed a book up there.
Oh, man. And
the ghost of Aaron was everywhere.
Oh, of course. Southeastern's campus has a Southern elegance to it, right? And so there's this stone wall around the entire campus, which honestly, I do think is as old as the Civil War.
Yeah, it's very old.
Right?
There's like an nice archway entrance.
Right. It's the original home of Wake Forest University, which in 1950, they sold it to Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, and they moved all the way to Winston-Salem.
Right. Yeah, so it looked like Wake Forest, where we'd been, the school, which had been in Winston where we used to live, but obviously it was in the town of Wake Forest, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. It was also Broy Hill, that building, was the first place where they taught evolution in the state of North Carolina. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of history there.
The first NCAA tournament was played in their gym there.
That's true. Yeah, wow.
Yep.
See all that history.
So much history.
Did you get to take your kids to the campus or anything like that?
We never did.
Okay.
Yeah.
They stayed in Rocky Mount?
They stayed in Rocky Mount.
How did they do traveling?
They did surprisingly great. So like right out of the gate, first flight, an hour into the flight, Sailor threw up all over me.
Oh, that's fun.
So didn't know that was a thing, but that was cool. But overall, they did great. I mean, we were in like different states, different houses, different places, and they did great. They had a good time.
I do think I texted you one time, like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, well, my kids have broken 3 things already in Micah's house.
Okay, so that is fair. They broke everything in Micah's house. We were like there 5 days, and we all like walked out of the living room, walked back, and there was a spot on Micah's TV. And Danny was there holding a broom, smiling. And was like, hey, man, I guess I'm getting you a new TV.
Look
That's
what I
cool.
did.
So we went and got a new TV. And thankfully, it was just the one TV that we broke.
So when you were traveling to Wake Forest, to Southeastern, were you in seminars or were you simply doing research? What were you doing?
Yeah, I'm done with all seminars. So this is just the writing phase.
Got it.
So I just got to spend a couple days in the library. And they have a tremendous online library. So I've done the bulk of my research just via the internet. But there's some books I needed in person. And it was just nice to be there. And actually, one of the guys from my cohort had just randomly decided to fly out and be in the library so he could write.
Oh, nice.
So we ended up getting to study together for a day, which was really cool.
How many guys in your cohort?
In the whole cohort, there's probably 25. But in my cohort and track, there's 3 other guys. So we've been kind of in all the same classes
together for the past 3 or 4 years, right?
I mean, like, have developed fast friendship. We text almost every day.
Where are they in the country, and what are they doing?
There's a guy in Louisville. There's a guy in Dallas.
Louisville, Kentucky.
And
Dallas,
there's a
Texas.
guy in somewhere in Alabama. He said the name of the town.
Okay.
Alabama's all the same to most of us, right?
They're pastors. They're ministers.
Pastors, yeah. So senior pastor, youth pastor, and then a family ministries pastor. Same age, same stage of life.
Wow.
Yeah, fast friendships. Really enjoyed being in class with them.
Bro, I know you're sick of talking about it, but give us a little understanding about how your doctorate is going to serve the church and kind of how you envision producing fruit at Grace Baptist.
Yeah, so listener, forgive the navel gazing, but I think what makes what I'm doing different than like a PhD is a PhD is meant to be a unique contribution to the academic community at large. So you essentially have to find something that no one has written on and write on it. The doctorate of ministry, on the other hand, is applicable to your current avenue of ministry. And so even if someone else has done the exact same thing, this is unique because it applies to our church and our context. So in thinking through the program that I wanted to do, one, I don't have the capacity to do a PhD, generally, certainly not at this stage of my life.
Do you think a PhD is helpful in a local church context, or do you think it's
I really do.
Okay.
In whatever your area of interest is for your PhD. So like Landon Lamas is doing this. You're expected to read everything extant on that topic.
Yeah.
So you become an expert on that topic, right? So even that is like to dig into something. And it's not just that thing that you're studying, then it helps you be a better writer and thinker overall. You get hammered in seminars and on papers, and it just sharpens your thinking.
I would like to think a PhD helps intuitively the person, right? Whereas the doctorate of ministry, what you're going for, really has more of a direct route to the benefit of people that you're shepherding.
So the end goal is that you have something usable in your ministry context that helps them. Now, what was fun about it is the first 3 chapters are research heavy. So chapter 1 kind of delineates our context. It does research on our demographics here, both in the church and in the community, which was really fun to do. Chapter 2 is the exegetical foundation. So, I mean, you're expected to bring it at an academic level to define what are the theological and exegetical foundations for the project that I'm going to do. Chapter 3 is the philosophical foundation. So whether that's other models of what other people have done or what I chose to do, which is what is the current philosophical zeitgeist in our area. I'm kind of looking at Charles Taylor, Truman, Alan Noble, a bunch of other people who've detailed the rise of anxiety and angst in our culture, the rise of loneliness, and then talking about how the gospel is a particular remedy for that. And then especially Christian community is this great avenue to the vehicle to reach out and serve those who are experiencing those kind of things.
So on the street level, what are you hoping this will accomplish in our church?
So then chapters 4 and 5, and really the ministry strategy, which is the Grace Baptist part of it.
That's the meat part.
That's the meat part.
Yeah, okay.
So that was fun to do 3 research-heavy doctoral level chapters, and then kind of flip a switch. And that's when I came back from sabbatical in August, that's what I got to do. And so then to start to think about, okay, how does all of this lead towards something that helps Grace Baptist? And so in talking with you and Joe and David and just thinking about what I know about our church, where we've been in the last 5 to 10 years in evangelism and where we want to go, what made the most sense was to develop a strategy for grace groups, our small groups here, not only to increase the number of grace groups and kind of increase their efficacy, but then also have those groups be more evangelistically focused. And so the ministry strategy that I came up with is 6 training sessions, 3 foundational, 3 practical, 3 hands-on or skill-related at the end, and then just a series of worksheets that are meant to help equip a group and then mobilize a group to think, what unique opportunities exist in this room to reach the lost, and then how do we take discernible, actionable, intentional steps towards reaching the lost people. And so for me, it makes sense that we've been focusing on neighboring at an individual level for 5 years now, 6 years now.
Right.
This is the next step to get to do that together in a way that I think accentuates our individual efforts, but then also in a discipleship sense, having stronger grace groups that are connected to ABFs, strengthen ABF ministry, strengthens discipleship and community here. And so my hope is that across the board, whether it's community, fellowship, discipleship, or evangelism and community presence in the Santa Clarita community, this strategy helps us take a step forward.
So essentially your project is a training.
It's a training, but it's not just a training. So one of my concerns was we love theology and training here. We've done trainings in the past, but it's a training that has very specific pathways and objectives that move from the training towards action steps, hopefully in the long term.
But you could take your project and from that produce other more palatable content. I mean, not everybody's going to sit and read a thesis or a dissertation.
They probably shouldn't, yeah.
But if they take what you have provided and we begin here to kind of mold it and frame it according to where we are in our church, in our town, that's the exciting part. Right?
And I think the training sessions gave me a chance to put into one spot a lot of disparate conversations that we've had about evangelism. So we did this training over here, we did this study guide over here, we had this kind of workshop over here, and it allowed to put it all kind of in one cohesive place that I think, we can use for Grace U, we can use with student ministries, we can use in other adult discipleship avenues. So even though the particularity of how this applies relates to grace groups, I think the training itself and then the idea behind it is replicatable in ministries all for grace.
So all your reading and all of your writing, did any further clarity develop in your mind about where we are in Santa Clarita and where you're living on your street and with your neighbors? I mean, did you begin to kind of see it flesh out in your own life?
Yes.
With clarity and stuff? Yeah.
I think even just putting some of those things into practice in conversations with neighbors, and I mean, life isn't a Disney movie, so it's not like my whole block got saved, but just seeing that people were interested in having deeper conversations.
Yeah.
They were interested in having spiritual conversations and worldview conversations. I think probably the 2 biggest takeaways for me personally through the research was being able to define, defend, articulate better that there is distinct value in the New Testament, and I think from a ministry philosophy standpoint, in doing good in the community as a kingdom citizen.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times I've been hyper-fixated on what's the return on investment? How do we get to the gospel conversation most efficiently?
Yeah.
And I think that that focus on efficiency actually undermines the value of what we're trying to do. So I think from a New Testament standpoint, if we would just love and serve lost people all over the place in a very broad way, just kind of sowing seeds, showing the love of Christ in the way that we live, showing off the kingdom betterness of Jesus Christ, there would be more, not less opportunities for gospel conversation. But because at times we hyperfixate on only curating opportunities that quickly get us to the gospel conversation, we miss out on the breadth of what God wants to do in our community.
As you've been interacting with the guys in your cohort, what are some unique qualities to Santa Clarita or Southern California in general compared to, say, Dallas, Texas, or Louisville, Kentucky? What are those guys experiencing that we also are experiencing, but then what's unique about our environment compared to theirs?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about angst across the board. So one guy's writing on like a handbook on how to help teenagers think about gender and sexuality from a biblical standpoint. One guy's writing on a pathway for training new members on racial reconciliation. So it's a half black, half white church. And so they're walking this road, but they want new members to come in to kind of understand the ethos of how the gospel creates reconciliation. Then one guy's writing on what biblical friendship looks like. And I think at every turn, we're just recognizing there are unique cultural squeeze points in different ways in these topics, but kind of the similarity is what Taylor talks about, that when you disentangle yourself or unhitch yourself from the idea of the transcendent, then that creates a lot of problems. And so I think seeing those problems critically, but then also understanding that provides unique inroads for the gospel. I think differently is seeing that we're a bedroom or a suburban community in ways that those other places aren't. And so there's a particular ethos here that at times, loves the arts community in LA, at times is fearful of what's going on down there. In some ways wants to recede from the busyness and chaos of that, but it's still kind of, the tendrils of busyness still get up here, right? Yeah. People are overwhelmed by sports and jobs and things like that. So I think just understanding that people are still squeezed here and that there can be, in communities like ours, there can be a unique fear that comes in suburban lifestyle. And so I think even just understanding that as we interact with our neighbors, that ethos could be present.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the fruit develops from all that you were able to research and to write on, man.
Me too,
it's really exciting.
Me too.
Hey, everybody. We're excited to announce that Spring Grace U class registration is now live. We'd love for you to join us for one or more of our 3 classes: Ministry Leadership Training, Christianity and Science, and Theology for Everyone Part 2. Just visit gracebaptist.org/graceu for more details to sign up. We hope to see you there. I want to go back to the sabbatical for a minute, because God not only used the sabbatical to develop what we've been discussing the past few minutes, but he also allowed a unique window of opportunity for you and Janelle. You want to talk about that? I mean, you already have kind of, but in the past. But
we picked up a baby. The last week we were in North Carolina. We're at the beach with my family. We were eating ice cream on a boardwalk. It was melting very fast, and so I was hyperfixated. I have a problem with stickiness. I have been known every time my kids lick ice cream to wipe their mouth. So it's probably a problem. It's probably should talk to somebody about that. So I was doing that. I was trying to wipe 3 mouths while ice cream was going everywhere, and eating my own ice cream. And we get a call from a LA number that we weren't expecting. So took the call, and it was a social worker saying that Daniel's mom had another baby, and she was asking if we'd be willing to take the baby in. We had left our foster license open in anticipation that one of the bio moms of our kids might have another child, and we're eager to keep siblings together when we can. We just didn't expect it then. Expected like a couple years down the road maybe,
right,
when in my mind I had everything figured out and life was more stable. This was kind of a shock. So Janelle was starting a new job literally the day after we got back. Our kids were about to go to a new school. I was out of routine being still on sabbatical. And so it was like, well, I don't know. And usually when you get a phone call, I've told this before, usually when you get a phone call, you only have a few minutes to say yes or no, because the social worker is going to move on, and they just have to find a home for that baby. And so we said, how long do we have to consider this? And she said, actually, you got some time because this baby was in the NICU. So we flew back. We got to go visit baby Destiny and just kind of see her. And we knew that, the moment you hold the baby, you're not going to walk away like, well, I guess we're not going to do that. That was fun. So we just knew that when we go see her, but we wanted to get a sense of what her actual medical needs were. She'd been in the NICU for about a month at that point. And just totally fell in love. She looked like Danny looked at that age.
Can you give us an understanding of kind of like where you are in the process right now? I know that before we walked into the studio, you
I just was in court.
Right. You were
on the phone.
On the phone.
Just was in court. So they just continued the case again. So it's hard to say right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we've adopted her half-brother, and DCFS likes to keep siblings together when possible, but they also like to keep families together. So obviously if there's a suitable family member that can take her and care for her, then we would support that. I think at this stage we'd be devastated because we love her, and she's been with us for 3 months now. She's part of the family.
And to see how God has developed you and Janelle with the internal fortitude that it takes to do that, it's not painless.
I just would say if you don't have 4 kids, listener, then maybe consider that 3 is enough or 2 is enough. That's all I'm saying. 4 is a lot of kids. No, it's been great. It's chaos. I mean, it's every day is chaos. Going out in public is chaos. Yeah. One of the first days that the kids were at their new school, which is in our neighborhood, it's Rosedale. Janelle had to go to work early because she starts earlier. And so I was going to walk all the kids over. And so I put 2 kids in a stroller and walked. And I just realized like the optics of like me and 4 kids. It's like a cloud of kids. Yeah. It's like this. I would be like, I'm not one of those guys.
Were you a sweaty mess walking, carrying 4 kids?
Yeah, it was a lot. But it's been amazing. And like all of our apprehensions, we came to a point where we realized all of our apprehensions were mostly about that this would inconvenience our lifestyle. And it was like, you know what, like this is a human. This is Danny's sister. Let's at least try it and see if we can make it work. And God has just met us in that. He's given us grace and strength. And you and Ingrid are part of this. There's just a community of people here who have loved us so well and from the jump have been there to help. I mean, like providing meals and babysitting and taking kids for walks when we have social worker meetings. It's just been incredible.
It's like family, isn't it?
It is family.
Yeah.
So none of our family's out here, but like I have family here. I have lots and lots and lots of family. And my kids have lots of family, which is amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, you got back from sabbatical and you hit the ground running, you know, with now 4 kids. It was only a few weeks after you returned, you preached, right?
Yeah.
You got right back into the saddle.
Like 2 3 weeks after, yeah.
Yeah. No, man, I appreciate your friendship going on now. What year was it we met? 2010?
Was it 10? 10 or 11, yeah.
I don't know.
A couple of years, man.
It's been a while, over a decade.
You know, Dave said it when he came back, and I feel that certainly getting back in the routine of week to week had some challenges, but it was a joy to come back here. I love this place. Like, this is my family. I mean, you know, like, I was still coming into the office sometimes just because I missed everybody so much.
Well, when any one of us is gone, you know, we've been working together for so long, it's weird.
It's weird.
It's like something's not right.
Like, do you remember in college when we'd all go away for Christmas and then one by one people would come back to the dorm?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a huge party.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I haven't seen you in 5 weeks. Yeah.
So when you return, I'm kind of like, life makes sense in this place now. Before there was a ghost.
I do float over things like that.
It's like, he's here. His presence is here.
It still smells like him.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm glad you're back. You've been back for quite a while, but I'm looking forward to jumping into, as we're drawing near to 2024.
Yeah.
Doing ministry together for another loop. You are going to host a few podcasts here coming up.
Yes.
Co-host one with me, but I'm looking forward to kind of your voice being in the room. Yeah.
And I'm thankful for this podcast, even just to get some stories from our partners out. I've heard from people that they've enjoyed that. And I think it's just cool to give our partners an extended chance to talk that's not just like a curated 5 minutes or 10 minutes here or there.
It's a great vehicle.
So look forward to more of those too.
Love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
Thanks for being here. Well, folks, thanks so much for streaming. Keep in mind that next Thursday is, in fact, Thanksgiving 2023. So we will not be dropping an episode, but hopefully you'll join us in 2 weeks as Jared will sit down with a very special guest. And we continue this Magnify train. That's a dumb way to end a podcast.
The Magnify train. Clamber aboard, y'all.
Thanks for streaming. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe to Magnify Podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. We would love to hear from you, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask in our mailbag, you can email them to magnify@gracebaptist.org, and we will answer them on the show. Thank you so much for streaming.